And so and then you also have to understand with syncretism, we're not just talking about the oppressive cultures. When we look at Cuban Lukumi, we have to understand that syncretism not just happened between Yoruba and Catholicism. It happened between Yoruba and Dahomey. It happened between Yoruba and Congo. It happened between Yoruba and Spiritism, which is a Christian form of ancestor devotion. And it even happened, uh, I believe, also to a certain extent with the Bini, the Edo of Benin City, not Dahomey, although Dahomey as well. Oh, and before I just lose track of this, I just want to make one reference. I want to recite the beginning of a verse that I learned from traditional Yoruba of Otura Meji, which my teacher at that time, Baba Ifabukumi, specifically said that it was intended to mimic the sound of the Islamic call of prayer. So this is how, if I, and any errors are on my part, and I hope I can recite it faithfully, but it's Allah fialau babalawa sholo difafungasho, right? So that long extended call, if you ever heard the Islamic call to prayer, it doesn't sound, the words aren't that, but it's sort of the idea. So in Lukumi, it's, how would I say that? I would say it's like 85-90% Yoruba foundation, mostly Egba, Abeokuta, obviously a lot of Oyo influence, but you have sprinkles of other stuff, right? You have a sprinkling of other traditions. For example, I learned this one song, to Olodumare. We don't have a lot of songs to Olodumare in Lukumi, at least not that I've learned. But one of them went like this, and you'll forgive the mediocre singing voice, but Ochanumboa, 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 Olodumare ayaye, Ochanumboa, Ochanumboa, Ochanumboa. Right, so honestly, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it meant at all. It's just, I'm repeating the words that I learned. But in my studies and my reading, I learned about the Bini of Edo City. The Bini of Edo City, and they don't call God Olodumare. And what do they call God? Oshanumboa. And if you look at it, I said it pretty fast, and my pronunciation, my accent is probably bad. But essentially, that was a song where somebody decided to equate the Bini word for God with the Yoruba word for God into one song. It probably didn't come from Africa. It was probably somebody in Cuba being exposed to two different traditions and said, hey, let's equate these. I can't imagine. I mean, if somebody listening to this can tell me what Oshanumboa is in Yoruba, I'm happy to hear a better theory. But, it's what it is. In Lukumi, also, it's very rare that you'll hear lots of singing to Babaluaye without them going into songs from Dahomey, from the Arara tradition, which is the Cuban tradition of Dahomey Vodun. Right? They'll sing Lukumi songs, but they sing long enough, they're going to go into the Dahomey. Most people sing to Obatala, and they'll pray praising Obatala in front of a Lukumi Orisha Yoruba shrine, and just give them some time, and they'll sing a Dahomey song, and they'll, that syncretism. Nobody gets mad about. Nobody is upset about that kind of syncretism. But we seem to get upset only at other syncretism. So, and I think the most important thing and why we should never vilify Syncretism is this, and from a personal experience, is when I went to Cuba, I met a woman who was 84 years old, and she was initiated at 82. I think she was definitely the oldest priestess in that city that I was in, and might have been even larger than that. And she, to some extent, had syncretic beliefs. And to vilify the syncretism, yeah, people my age, we can have the argument we can have, but could you imagine me going to a person who's dedicated so much of her life, who's such an expert in tradition, such an expert in oral history, such a good ritualist, for me to dismiss her knowledge, dismiss her wisdom, just because she had some Catholic images on her shrine, or that she may have had a genuine belief in the Holy Spirit, in the Christian point of view, how arrogant, how bizarre would that be? And sometimes when you create that rhetoric of divisiveness because somebody is doing the syncretism, guess what? You do push people like that away.